There was a guy in a cafe I worked at who used to complain about the milk not being hot enough. He used to get a hot chocolate. He justified getting a hot chocolate because he said it was very hard to mess up a hot chocolate, whereas like a coffee was pretty easy in his logic anyway. Yet, even though I was making the milk what I would see as extra hot and burning it, he still didn't think it was right. So this one day I got kind of jack of it, and I thought, it's not hot enough for you, buddy? Let's see about that. I heated up the milk that much that the froth had a set, and big boiling bubbles were coming up where the steam wand was. Like, I mean, it went against every single fiber of my being to heat up the milk like that. But the customer's always right, right? The satisfaction I felt when I asked him, is that hot enough? And he takes a sip and winces like, yeah, yep, that's hot enough. And I just thought, yeah, buddy, you bloody well bet it's hot enough. Ah, I still remember that. And that was probably going back maybe close to 10 years. Today, I'm going to be going over tips and tricks for steaming up milk. So, I recommend not doing what I did unless you're forced to. However, what I do recommend doing, I'm going to go through now. The right milk matters. So, if you've got milk of a higher fat content that's a better farm, it's going to produce much better froth and texture than a home brand milk. Let's say the Coles or Woolies home brand, which is generally a lot more watery. The local milk I use can also be pretty hit and miss. Like sometimes you can get milk that the grass has been really dry and there's not really too many nutrients in it. Other times you can get milk that's absolutely freaking beautiful. It just textures like gold. So finding the right brands matters. I will be going over a practical video in a future episode that is going to cover this, where I will get samples of all of the different milks available in my supermarket and test which is better. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be very exciting. So once you've got the right milk and you've poured the milk in the jug, the position of the steam wand matters. I personally like to use the spout here as a guide. So let's say this is my steam wand. This gives me a lot more control. I can rest the jug against it. So you don't want the jug touching the bottom. You want it sitting up a little bit above the bottom. And you don't really want the steam wand too far down. Normally you just want it to be a couple of mil below the surface of the milk. It's going to start kissing and stretching the milk out. And then you can just leave it exactly where it is. The closer to the middle, the slower your vortex is going to be. The further to the side, the faster it's going to be. The advantage of having a smaller vortex and a slower heat up is that gives you a little bit more room to play with. You can cut the bubbles down finer. Especially with your alternative milks, it's going to work a lot better. If your steam wand is over at the side and it heats up quicker, that's going to be better if you're in a pump for a takeaway coffee, for instance. So this is normally a splitting jug because it's fairly tiny. If I was going to heat up milk in this, I'd only want to fill up milk a little bit above this point, maybe half a centimeter above the bottom of the spout here. If I fill it up too more, I'm not really going to have too much room to play with. So that's only really going to do 1 cup. That's why you normally have a bigger jug, like a 12-ounce jug, or maybe a 16-ounce jug, depending on what you're playing with. From there, you can split in, and you can get the right amount of milk of the right froth content into the splitting jug and pour it. Heating up the jug is also very important, because if I've got this cold jug sitting on a bench and I pick it up and then I pour my hot milk in there, it's going to cool down the moment it touches that cold metal. So by putting it underneath the hot water tap, heating up this little section here, it gets the temperature of this jug up to the point where the milk will stay consistently the same temperature. The vortex, as I've talked about, is very important. If you have your steam wand sitting on the side here, it's not going to give you too much control. You can move it around. It's also not really going to heat up all of the milk consistently. You might get hotter patches than others, colder patches than others. I find the vortex to be a lot better because it's mixing your milk around as you're steaming it. so you're not going to get any inconsistencies in your texture or your heat. If you have some big bubbles left over, lightly tap it out. Don't go slamming it down. You can let it sit there, but don't let it sit there too long because the bubbles will pop and the froth won't be right to pour. Keep it spinning. Keep it spinning nice and well. Different types of jugs also matter. So this is a Teflon coated jug, which means that the froth pours out very, very easily. If I'm using a normal stainless steel jug, they're a little bit thinner so you can feel the temperature, but they can grip the froth a lot. You can also get stainless steel jugs that are a fair bit thicker, so it can really change that field temperature. So generally I find the best way to go with heating up milk is by hearing it. I can normally hear the right point where I know that it's going to be hot enough. There will again be a practical video where I'll go over exactly what that sound is, so stay tuned for that. Thermometers are also very, very helpful. I've gone over them in a different video, so yeah, if you're using a thermometer at your cafe or in your home, go back and watch that. It's called The Trouble with Thermometers, and it goes over some of the issues you can have as well as care to make sure your thermometer is reading to a consistent temperature. Teflon coating jugs, great. However, watch out for the build-up because they can be kind of grippy as well. If you leave froth in there, they can eat away at the Teflon. Avoid putting them in dishwashers because that heat can wear away the Teflon. The worst thing would be getting the Teflon into the milk and pouring it because you don't want to be ingesting that. So yeah, make sure you're wiping it out with cloth or hot water and just washing it up by hand. These can be absolutely amazing, but they can also wear very, very easily. That covers milk. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a customer service video that's about the wacky weirdos you encounter, like this previous weirdo that I talked about. I'll be going a little bit more in depth of that. If that sounds right up your alley, please hit that like and subscribe button and tune in tomorrow at about maybe 6:30ish, where I will be posting up another video. Thanks.